diving into is, oh boy, do we have some things to catch up on. So it finally happened. Elon Musk decided to buy Twitter, and the Twitter merger deal was actually approved. I am still a little in shock that this deal has actually occurred and it's actually taken place. I thought we were going to be looking at months of continued controversy with a potential breakup fee, but it really seems like that is no longer going to be the case. So I'm going to kind of continue with two main topics today. In our first segment now, we're just going over the kind of the weird, sad world of the metaverse, just some different things that we've seen in terms of technology with Musk's decision to buy Twitter, whether or not that's actually going to bear out in reality shall be very interesting to see, for lack of a better term. And then we'll just kind of go into a little bit more about the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful world of, well, you guys know it, stock-based skepticism. And I'm going to actually react to one of my own videos, and I'm going to see how much of a knucklehead I am as I watch it here on stream, just get some actual commentary on my Tesla stock due diligence deep dive once we've got a little bit more of an audience going here, guys. So let's just dive right on into this. So the initial video I wanted to go over, let me just pull this up on screen so we can dive into it a little bit more, was the original reasons why Elon Musk wanted to buy Twitter. Personally, I don't really feel like there was a lot of, noble movement here, but, we're gonna see. So let me just get that up and running, and then we'll go from there, guys. Okay, so sorry, this is taking a second here. Okay, let's just copy this, get this over. Bam. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of pull up CNET's content here. I think that'll be interesting to actually react to. So let me just do this. Let's get that going. Okay, so oh, lag is not my friend, is it? Okay. Oop, we're lagging real bad.
Elon Musk has offered to buy Twitter. Let's go.
Okay, Elon Musk has now successfully offered to buy Twitter. And really the big statement here from Elon was, he's doing this, or he's at least making this merger to act as a, he's really doing this for the betterment of mankind, or he is doing this for the good of humanity, which just seems really strange to me, because the idea that somehow Twitter is good for humanity that's just kind of ridiculous. So let's get on it with the Chief Twit and see what we're up to for today. So let's go.
Get all the facts.
Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square. It's really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law.
Elon Musk offered to buy Twitter at $54.20 per share, valuing the social media company at $43 billion, according to a regulatory filing.
So the idea that somehow people are unable to, speak freely, the debate is arguably a lot more nuanced than this. And this is one of the things that has kind of bothered me about a lot of conversations of social media is, just because you have the right to say something in the town square doesn't necessarily mean you have the right to have your message picked up or really favored by the algorithm. So there does seem to be a way for Facebook, for Twitter, to just allow people to post whatever the hell they want and just not drive any traffic to it, or really just create algorithms that prevent messages from being said. Because if somebody's in the town square at midnight and nobody can hear them, do they actually get heard? And I think that's a pretty interesting point with a lot of this, where apparently I'm having wonky audio issues, so now I gotta listen in according to our official group B. But this idea that somehow it's a digital town square, and it gives you the right to be heard seems really suspicious to me. Where apparently I'm having wonky audio issues, so now I gotta listen in according to our official group B. But this idea that somehow it's a digital town square, and it gives you the... Oh, you guys could hear me with that. That's that's not good. So just with that in mind, I really don't buy this idea of the digital town square. And the problem you run into with both of these ideas is really the tragedy of the commons. So there's a reason why we don't have a lot of public spaces where, I just want to continue with this, where inevitably, Elon is going to have to apply some degree of regulation, some degree of, censorship on these platforms. And I really don't get how you're going to be able to avoid the digital tragedy of the commons with this private resource that's currently going on inside of Twitter. I'm just checking with my audio tech here to make sure I'm still good. But this idea that somehow, Elon is going to be able to deal with the digital tragedy of the commons or in one of these private spaces, I just don't see how, ipso facto or just by the very nature of itself, you can have a, digital town square without somebody enforcing laws and rules in the square and kicking people out who are highly disruptive. Let's just say it's if you ever have been at a U.S. university, you might have run into people who are advocating for Sin Day and, being annoying and telling everybody how they're going to help. Most people, if they're given the option, are just going to simply pay to have the riffraff taken away or just have the Sin Day people taken out of their way. So, there's no... free speech is not necessarily commercially desirable, nor is it good for business when you have a bunch of hooligans just sitting in your park and kind of doing nothing but screaming at the top of their lungs. So when you look at Twitter compared to the other platforms, there's a reason no businesses really do heavy amounts of advertising on Twitter. Twitter has always been a terrible cesspool of a product. There's really been no positive growth on this platform. I really can't think of anything positive that Twitter has done. It doesn't make it easier to engage. I mean, I just remember having heart attacks over what the president of the United States was going to tweet. And is it desirable for the president of the United States to essentially just be shotgunning, with these little 100-word characters. Not really. And the idea that we're going to have a civil debate and we're going to engage in a civil conversation is, it's kind of quaint without some degree of, a common set of rules and a common set of rule enforcement. And you run into this thing where these free speech absolutists, or really, for lack of a better term, a-holes, seem to think that being, free speech gives you the right to be an a-hole, which I don't really think is the case. And this is something where, the more I start learning about Elon Musk, Elon's entire style is basically, hey, I'm an a-hole. And if that's something you're okay with, more power to you, just more power to you. But that's not necessarily something you want to build the basis of a civilization on. And it's not necessarily something that is good. But this idea of the common digital space, this is not what Twitter is good for. Twitter does not promote discourse. Twitter does not promote long conversations. It doesn't promote critical thinking, and it certainly doesn't promote civility. So then really, what is society losing if Twitter goes the way of the dinosaurs? Are we losing anything that we can't get back? We're really, maintaining this vitriolic, toxic space where politicians and journalists can yell at each other. I think of like the guys who are like Cambridge Square, who will go after each other with like the debating societies as they literally stand up on a soapbox, or, you have these street evangelists. Really, who wants to hear these people? So there's a market in being able to like filter these people out of my feed, which is something I would pay for. But again, it's very difficult to really agree with the idea that this digital common space is something we're really losing. So now let's continue here.
In a letter to Brett Taylor, the chairman of Twitter's board of directors, Musk said, "Twitter has extraordinary potential. I will unlock it." An hour after the story broke, Musk tweeted, "I made an offer." Musk's offer to buy Twitter is the latest in a string of events between the billionaire and the social media site. It comes.
So this is just one of those things where maybe it's just the lesser mortal that I am. Maybe it's just because I don't have those big brain things going on. But what is driving this? What makes it, what is the untapped hidden potential of Twitter as a platform? What is the net societal good that this is going to enable? So I just think that gets to be really interesting, because when you're looking at it, like, what exactly does this do for us? Does it make anything better? Is it improving society at all? The answer to that question really seems to be no, when you just pause to think about it. After all, what are you really getting with Elon Musk and Twitter? What good is it gonna do you? Oh, hello, Mrs. Key Cat. Oh, Mrs. Key Cat, hello. Oh, hello, Mrs. Key Cat. Yeah, you come on the live stream today? Yes, Mrs. Key Cat comes on the live stream sporadically. Oh, there's the Key Cat tail. Yes, I have a lot of wildlife. Oh, hello, Mrs. Key Cat. You're quite popular. Oh, good girl. I'm definitely allergic to you, though. You make my nose quite stuffy, but I love you, Mrs. Key Cat. Mrs. Key Cat. What? Oh my gosh, Mrs. Key Cat. So, just with this in mind, with Elon, let's continue. But what is this?
Just days after he decided not to join Twitter's board of directors, after acquiring a 9.2% stake in the company in March. The nearly $3 billion acquisition made Musk Twitter's largest shareholder. until the Vanguard Group increased its stake and bumped him from the top spot. Once news of Musk's bid hit Twitter, there were mixed reactions. Musk's followers and supporters expressed excitement that he might own the social media platform, but many more voiced concern at the idea of the reportedly richest person in the world.
So it doesn't really matter if he's the world's richest person. I mean, what he wants to be is he wants to be the world's most influential person. He doesn't really care about being rich, as far as I can tell, based on his style. And Mrs. Keycat has decided to enjoy those nice, pretty windows and chase some bugs. But really, when we're looking at it, it just seems like a lot of Musk's content is designed to make him feel important, to make him feel better. And I don't feel the world-changing nature of most of these things. I just feel like we're doing what's going to sell. Because you can get a lot of data from Twitter very quickly in order to conduct market research. As he's looking at what data sells, I mean, it is an absolute godsend of a laboratory, just like social media is in general, where you're looking at growing your audience and figuring out exactly what you want to do. So this really makes life pretty interesting. I mean, it'd be so terrible to lose the botnet. Why do you never... Okay, Quizmaster, why do you never show up as a viewer? You're like never counted in my stats. Like, you're never counted. It's like, you like never show up in my views, man. Like, I don't get it. I'm just like, but it's definitely one of these things where let's continue here.
Owning Twitter and adding the company to his numerous business assets. However, Musk says he's not looking to make money from Twitter. That is, he doesn't view the acquisition as a financial investment. Instead, he sees it as a service for public good.
My strong intuitive sense is that having a public platform that is maximally trusted and broadly inclusive is extremely important to the future of civilization. I don't care about the economics at all.
An avid Twitter user, Musk is also one of the site's biggest critics.
So then he tried to run away from the deal very, very quickly. So obviously the financial considerations. Yes, happy Halloween, sir. It's just like, this is so, like, the idea that he didn't care about the financial considerations. Like, here's the thing. Like, I have never... Okay, let's actually just check this quickly, because I need to verify this. Okay, so Elon Musk admits he's wrong. Okay, so we don't go quite that far. I don't see him as a Soros. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't see Musk as Soros 2.0. I see him as kind of this, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have some controversy with the Open Society. I do think that, Musk is one of those figures where apparently I'm not going to be able to get away from him, because apparently now he owns Twitter, and it's like my new Donald Trump, where it's like the gadfly of skepticism, where it's like, remember you are mortal, man. And the idolatry that really happens with Elon Musk it's really concerning. It's really concerning to see people make an idol out of a businessman or an entrepreneur. That doesn't seem to be really a great way to live to me. And these entrepreneurs, despite having a vast amount of business success, especially in the case of, let's say, like the recent Meta debacle, these guys make stupid decisions all the time. And sometimes they make categorically stupid decisions, which really continues to impress me. So let's see.
Tweeted a poll to his 81 million followers in March, asking whether users believe Twitter was protecting free speech. He said the poll results, in which roughly 70% of 2 million respondents answered no, would be very important. As part of his original agreement to join Twitter's board, Musk had pledged to cap any investment at 14.9% while serving a 2-year term. With the agreement now scrapped, Musk is free to add to his stake. If Musk
Yeah, I mean, it's like the biggest issue with the institutions that they're like, it's kind of like free speech absolutism, where, yeah, I think my biggest concern with like free speech is, like free speech is great as, like an ideal, but from like an ethical perspective, you do need to consider like the actual utility of free speech. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's like they're like, I mean, you can really colossally screw up on a really epic level. Kind of wondering where my cat went to. I don't trust her. I feel like she's like gonna get trapped somewhere. Because we just moved and we've got like all these boxes out downstairs in my basement where my new office is. I just needed enough room to actually set up all of my camera stuff. And you're going to notice that the audio is better today than it was, than it was yesterday. So hopefully that's a bit of an improvement. But, with Elon, now he has the ability to censor people who might criticize him for, let's talk about like Boca Chica, which I don't know how the hell that is still happening. And, it's essentially about having a really big bully pulpit where, I don't use Twitter because I'm not usually looking to batter somebody over the head or to develop a really big bully pulpit. There is a certain point where you do become satisfied with enough, or at least you should be satisfied with enough. And this, quest for immortality or godhood that you can kind of see with some investors, it's quite troubling. I mean, it really is quite troubling. But now let's continue here.
Musk acquires Twitter, he says he wants to increase the public's trust of the platform by making it a place of inclusivity and true freedom of speech, a necessary feature of any functioning democracy, he adds. During an interview at the 2022 TED conference in Vancouver, Musk said that he values truth. On April 9th, he shared a tweet reading, "Truth is the first casualty," with an image from a YouGov survey showing the most trusted media organizations.
So that's one of those things where this idea that somehow there's, with truth, there is a lot of, let's just get on the skeptic glasses here. There's a lot that's being driven at here that Musk is getting into, and these are very dangerous ideas to allow someone who's essentially a businessman to purely, become a modern day priest and really allow him to run amok. If you look at Elon Musk's personal life, his marriages end in flames. He's fathered children who he does not appear to develop close relationships to. So, again, not exactly what I would call the world's most moral man from an ethical perspective, if we're just looking at it that way. So, these ideas of truth, these ideas of free speech, these are things that sound very good in an intellectual vacuum, but they have relatively little to do with, either profiting off the stock market or, living a good life. I mean, so the idea that somehow these are the greatest things in life, truth, But what is truth that we're pursuing? Is this scientific truth? Is this political truth? What does that even mean? And again, that doesn't make a great deal of sense. And what I kind of continue to come back to here, especially with Elon, is this is kind of a new idolatry, or like the tech wizard, or the it's very interesting to watch it unfold. I will say that, and to kind of watch others, in a very similar tech sphere like Zuckerberg, completely crash and burn. But let's just continue here for a moment.
Since announcing his stake in Twitter in April, Musk has posted several tweets about what he'd change at the company. In one, which has since been deleted, he asked whether Twitter's San Francisco headquarters should be turned into a homeless shelter because no one shows up anyway. In another, he asked if Twitter was dying. As one of Twitter's largest shareholders, Musk already has a lot of power. He can team up with other shareholders and push for any changes he wants to see. Musk also has a tendency to sway public opinion with his tweets. After tweeting Tesla would no longer accept Bitcoin as a form of payment, multiple crypto coins took a dive. When he said Tesla would start accepting Dogecoin for some merchandise, the cryptocurrency surged. He could use that power and influence to try to bring changes to Twitter without buying it. If he does acquire Twitter, Musk proposed a number of changes he would make to the social media platform, including an edit button, something he polled his followers about a few weeks ago. Twitter has been working on an edit feature since.
So, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like kind of like the dynamic whiz bang, CEO, where it's just like, Elon Musk seems like he would be an absolute nightmare to work for, because it's his way or the highway. I am the super entrepreneur, beholdeth me, O ye mere mortals, where, the ego is definitely a little out of check there. All men by nature desire to know, but what do all men, desire to know? So, I mean, we could go with the phrase, I know that I know nothing. It's Socrates, where we're kind of looking at this idea of like absolute knowledge or absolute truth. These things are fundamentally unknowable. So it's just one of those things where, Twitter has become, this maximal good or this maximal trust. One of the things with Twitter is it's a single person platform. Elon Musk is not using his money to buy Twitter. So it's just like, are you making a decision to support Twitter? Are you making a decision to support Elon Musk? So like, what is the, so what does that even mean for the trust here? And I just think that makes it, on the good life, we could get the Nicomachean ethics going from Aristotle. I mean, we are going way, way back here. The philosophy money channel here. As we're talking about, the philosophy of money. I would argue, though, that the good life is not to be found on Twitter. It's just very interesting to watch scores of people as they become happier, and how social media is better. So like, I do want to segue into our second segment, which is just going to kind of be the meta meltdown, or the decline of the metaverse. Like, Facebook's ad option should be like, hey, I have friends who go rock climbing. We're sharing our interests about rock climbing. Hey, here's a contextual ad about rock climbing equipment. That makes a lot of sense from a business perspective. It makes it a really interesting company. So before we dive into a little bit more on the metaverse, which is also going to be this week's, longer form video is, okay, so like, what the hell is the metaverse to even begin with? And, where does this go? Exactly. If you control all the essentials, you can become rich. Just like apparently the moonshot and the moon monopoly are the way to go there. So let's just finish up with this video. Then I'm going to transition over to some of the stuff I had planned on the metaverse.
2021, something Musk didn't acknowledge during his TED conference interview. Musk's edit button would be time-sensitive and also zero out any retweets. Eliminating scam bots and bot armies on Twitter would also be a top priority for Musk. He noted during his interview that they...
So this idea that somehow you're deleting the scam bots or the vast legion of bots, frankly, I just don't really feel like a lot of... I just really don't get where we're going to be going with a lot of this. It just seems like, Twitter, like, what is the value of this platform? I mean, okay, we're going to be editing this and it's going to be so fantastic. And oh man, do I get a lot of glasses glare. So much glasses glare. It's really annoying trying to live stream when you have you're nearsighted like me, and you can't see anything. It just drives me absolutely nuts.
They bring down the site's product value and make it worse for users. Musk said he would also make Twitter's content moderation practices more transparent. He added that users should know whether tweets were being promoted or de-emphasized, manually or algorithmically. He cautioned against...
Okay, so what exactly is the point of Twitter? I mean, this is basically where it's like, you want to know the other reason people go to the town square? They went to the town square to go throw tomatoes at people in the stockade. Okay, so that's what the town square was for. You went to go see the public executions. This idea that somehow the town square is a good place to be is really stupid. So, it's basically like, this guy is under investigation by the SEC for market manipulation. It's like pump and dump with crypto. The world's richest person, you would think that doesn't, you would think that doesn't happen, but, Twitter is hijacked. So we have to trust Elon, then we've got to trust these people. The world would probably be a better place without Twitter, without public lynch mobs, because that's what happens in the town square. That is what has always happened in the town square. And people are like, it's so odd online. I'm like, do you think? Why do you think the Romans had public executions in the Colosseum? Because of the entertainment value. So that is the value of Twitter, the blood sport of digital fisticuffs. It is not something that uplifts you. It is not something that makes you better. So if you're going to do Twitter, you're basically doubling down on Donald Trump and the, oh my gosh, here we go. We're getting ready for a cheap thrill and we're going to pound the crud out of each other. That, sir, is the digital town square. The digital town square, or the town common, is not a good place. You have two basic issues. You've got the tragedy of the commons, where common spaces, unless they're privately regulated, are run into the ground as people overuse resources and take advantage of the common public space without regulation. So that's one problem with free speech, is how do you deal with and resolve the tragedy of the commons? I don't know how Musk is going to do that. It doesn't seem like there's really a good solution. Maybe the Content Advisory Council from Facebook comes close, but there's no good answer here. And this idea that now the Holy Messiah is going to save us, from really these structural and fundamental problems strikes me as that's troubling. there, this, but the world would most likely be a better place without Twitter. It's not a place we need. It's not something that creates good in the world. Now, just to close this,
permanent bans from Twitter, advocating for temporary suspensions instead. Musk believes Twitter's coding structure should be transparent as well. If he purchases Twitter, he said he would post its open source data on GitHub, a popular forum for coders, so people can access the company's data, identify flaws, and offer solutions.
okay,
Musk is an avid Twitter user, with over 81 million followers. However, he admits he doesn't really have a strategy for his Twitter account. His tweets are reflections of a stream of consciousness. It's impressive, considering that neither Tesla nor SpaceX, companies he owns, operate a marketing or public relations department. News of developments at both companies is often shared first via Musk's Twitter account. Musk's interest in acquiring Twitter is just one in a long...
So that's the other thing. He is the marketing department.
long line of billionaires increasingly investing in media organizations.
I don't really understand what is so difficult to get about that. SpaceX and Tesla have a marketing department. Also, he doesn't own them. He has minority stakes. So that's another thing where I'm like, no. No. Nitpicky, yes, nitpicky. But hail to the Messiah. Hail to our technological saviors. All hail. So this is one of the things where, you know, with the invective that gets weighed, but, you know, him saying, like, the point I was going through earlier, I also don't know why I can't see you guys in, like, my view feed here. It's driving me nuts because we got, like, one viewer or two viewers. Nobody knows. But the Digital Town Commons, people got executed in the town square. And that's what Twitter is. Twitter is a bloodbath. That is Twitter functioning at its finest, where it's like, it's going to the UFC where I want to see Fight Night. It's like WWE, it's Fight Night. That is Twitter. So maybe it's a clean fight like boxing that Elon is going to get us. SpaceX is still private, but Elon is not the majority controller because there's a consortium of investors. It's really difficult to say. I mean, with SpaceX, it's just like, you know, so it's really difficult to even begin to, like, put together, you know, what is Elon actually, you know, what is he actually worth? So this gets to be quite interesting. But let us, now we're going to our other favorite guy, Mark Zuckerberg. Oh my God. Okay. I am like meta. Okay. So just as we transition into our meta section, I need to kind of show everybody a game first. So let me just pull this up. So kind of the progenitor of the metaverse is a game. You're gonna notice a similarity here. So there's a game called Second Life, and in Second Life, you can kind of build your own little wonderful world. But let me tell you who the vast majority of Second Life users are. It's generally a mix of furries and other kinky folk who basically have these entire worlds devoted to sexual deviance. Doesn't that sound like a great place for advertisers and investors? So that's who uses these virtual worlds, okay? Most regular people don't really want to own, like, their house in the virtual world. So as far as I can tell with with Meta, social metaverse company. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, do we get rid of the silly little images? Do we get rid of them? Oh, do we get rid of them? Do we get rid of these silly little images? Meta Horizon. Okay, so basically what we've done here, and I love this. So our big, brilliant idea is, and this is what Mark has done, attaboy, Marky, attaboy, is he's basically created a Wii universe with billions of dollars. And I'm not sure if I think that Second Life... So do we think Second Life has better graphics? Or does the metaverse? Meta Horizons. So I'm pretty sure I would play Second Life over Meta Horizons or even World of Warcraft. But a lot of this idea of, the idea of we're going to live in virtual worlds was really opined by Futurama, which was for those of you not from the US, it was a sci-fi comedy show in the early 2000s. A bit of a cult classic. And, we were creating these virtual worlds where somehow like people will live in the internet. But people have been doing this for 2 decades now. In video games like EverQuest, Final Fantasy, you have EverQuest, Final Fantasy, RuneScape, and World of Warcraft. So these MMORPGs are massive multiplayer online role-playing games, which I used to play World of Warcraft. And let me tell you what, the entire genre of game is dying. You would think the game most likely to be championing virtual reality, which would be a game like World of Warcraft for a truly immersive avatar experience with a real combat system or something like that. These are not the adopters of VR technology. So video game companies produce reams and reams of data in order to give the big fat whales, some degree of experiences, with these mobile games. But, that's very telling that Activision Blizzard, that these really entertainment companies are not investing in these digital worlds. The cringiness of the metaverse is something that only makes sense when we're all locked down from COVID-19, like during the plague. So if we have another worldwide meltdown, this could make sense. But the idea that Meta Horizons is going to be a world where we're engaging with our Wii advertisers to go to a comedy club, this just seems like the second coming of the great NFT grift. As we might say in Italian, a facima fangula, like, what is this? So again, with the apps and gaming, there is some degree of a market here with games. You're looking at, really great games like Skyrim VR and stuff, but really, the MetaQuest 2, $400, I don't know if people want to spend $400 for an immersive headset. Like, that just really doesn't strike me as a good value. So again, there's a couple markets here where I think this product makes a lot of sense, where it's something like actually having, like, let's say like an orchestra with like remote instruction where you could have all the students virtually in an orchestra, or for disabled people, actually being able to, like, let's say like homeschool students with musical instruction, actually be able to see, kind of play the instruments. And if you could actually get some virtual feedback, that's really cool. So there are some uses where this would really begin to make a lot of sense. Things like the continuing medical education market or even digital therapeutics. And I'm going to be highlighting this in my video that I'm doing a little later this week on Meta. Just because like I'm diving into this again a bit more. Yeah, so the two most salient opportunities here, the two big opportunities are really that continuing medical, really that virtual training. And then I think really with like B2B, where you're like looking at these work tools overview, where, I'm just the Meta Portal Plus, but again, I really just don't see people sitting down and talking to these little weirdo avatars. Like, I just don't see this. I really don't see the market for this. I don't know if this has been tested by users, but it's one of those things where I just don't see it. Like, some guy is gonna put on his little headset goggles and be like, I'm here, man. So I guess this makes me a little little skeptical, but I just don't. So if we're looking at video calling, these market opportunities are not large enough for Facebook, to really make a lot of money. And like, they're definitely trying to get into, more and more technology like this. I think there is some room to run here, but I'm just a little bit skeptical of that. I mean, let me know what you guys think, but I just don't see the reams and reams of value. The how extreme is COVID in China? Nice. Apparently Corey likes to be on at the same time as me. That's funny. It doesn't really matter though about China. So let's see. So okay, so this is going to be extremely exciting as we look into the wonderful world of Mark Zuckerberg's announcement of Meta from a year ago. So let's actually get this baby opened up. Mrs. Keycat, what are you doing, Mrs. Keycat?
I believe the metaverse is the next chapter for the internet. And it's the next chapter for our company too. So I've been thinking a lot about what this means for our company and who we are as we embark on this journey. We're a company that focuses on connecting people. While most other tech companies focus on how people interact with technology, we focus on building technology so...
Hello, Mrs. Keycat. Yeah, Mrs. Keycat. Do people need to connect with you, Mrs. Keycat? Hello, Mrs. Keycat. Yeah, do people need to connect with you? You don't like this, do you? You're very curious, though. Go, Mrs. Keycat. I just kind of want to like get the fart noises going while I watch this video, but I mean, this presentation feels very monotone and a little creepy, Mark, not gonna lie here. So, with that in mind, where exactly are we gonna be going? Let's see, guys. Let's see what wonders await us in the metaverse. I'm looking forward to this. It really does. I mean, this really scares me. I mean, this is like the cringe little sad universe. It's like, Mark, sweetie, no, this is a bad idea. It's a really bad idea.
people can interact with each other. One of the reasons I started Facebook was that at the time you could use the internet to find almost anything. Information, news, movies, music, shopping, except for the thing that matters most of all, people.
Okay, that is not the reason people started using your website at colleges, my man. The reason people started using your website is they wanted to know who was available to hook up with. That is why college students used this app. Not because of people, not because of connections are great, not because of any of the other PR, whatchamacallit. So the reality is, with disruptive innovation, when you are building a product, you need to get a job done for people. We could go with jobs to be done frameworks. We could go with any strategy rigmarole you really want to. But the reality is, you need to solve a problem for people. And, while a lot of people are, lonelier than ever, these weird technologies really don't solve that problem. I don't really feel more connected to people when I use Facebook products. That basic need that Mark is saying his companies help solve is really not true. So the company doesn't even do its job according to this mission here. So, Google helps people find information. So it needs to be good at helping people find answers. If Google doesn't do that, Google is not a good product. So the idea here is that by joining, Mark, I should feel more connected to people. Personally, I feel more connected to people maybe in, interest groups or like meetup.com, but I don't. Okay, so we have a disagreement from my stage side commenter with Facebook, where we're able to connect with we're able to connect with people. So I'll grant that, where there's like groups where if you use the Facebook groups feature, you can meet people online very easily. Facebook groups does do a good job of that, but that's not how the company really makes money. The company makes money through ad space, like the user feed. Like I can't recall ever having someone come up in my feed on Facebook and actually having built a meaningful relationship with that person through serendipity or through like, hey, let's just connect, where it's like you might be meeting each other at an event. So I do take the feedback of the I disagree from the person who should use the comment box instead of texting me their disagreement. But I do concur with that to a certain extent, where if you're going to go to another country, digital nomads, things like that, people use Facebook, but in the context of like forming new relationships, like if, like, let's just say like I moved to West Hartford, where I currently am from New York, it's not like I'm suddenly being connected or it's really being facilitated to meet new people in that local area. So the app, but that's not what Facebook is focused on. Instead, folks, we're doubling down on the metaverse, baby.
Today, we're seen as a social media company. But in our DNA, we're a company that builds technology to connect people. And the metaverse is the next frontier, just like social networking was when we got started. Facebook was born in a specific time and place, a college campus, the web. It was what we could build at the time to put people back into our experience of technology. But connecting people was always much bigger. From way earlier on, I remember sitting in middle school classes, sketching in my notebooks, ideas that I wanted to code when I got home. And even though I didn't have the skill or technology to build it yet, it was always clear that the dream was to feel present with the people we care about. Isn't that the ultimate promise of technology? To be together with anyone, to be able to teleport anywhere, and to create and experience anything? Yet here we are in 2021, and our devices are still designed around apps, not people. The experiences we're allowed to build and use are more tightly controlled than ever. and high taxes on creative new ideas are stifling. This is not the way that we are meant to use technology. The metaverse gives us an opportunity to change that if we build it well. But it's going to take...
Okay, this sounds like some utopian commie, if we just engineer society in the proper way, woohoo, we just build society, it will be great and it will be fantastic. I mean, we will truly ascend to the next level of tech stardom. So there are several issues here just right off the bat. Oh God, I really have missed out a lot in the last year, haven't I? I got like this big backlog of things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this requires like the heavy dose of cold water in reality. I mean, like even to most points, like, I mean, even if something is a legitimately good idea, it's like it's the solution, I still think you need disagreement in order to actually foster a debate. But I don't like stupid disagreement, which is like what a lot of the free speech absolutists go down. I mean, there's disagreement, and then there's like quacks, and you can't have quacks. It's just like we're in crazy town where it's like the earth is flat. No, it's not. It's not flat. Okay, we're playing make-believe at that point. So the issue that you run into with this technology is, or if like somehow we perfectly build and engineer a universe that there's a couple of dangerous undertones to what Zuckerberg is promoting here. There's the morality aspect, then there's the actual commercialization aspect, where it's like, using technology to engineer a more human experience. And, this kind of goes into this idea of, are we, have we evolved, or are we designed? Are we well designed, creatures? So there's a whole series of, expectations where, a lot of the experiences in life that I've enjoyed have not necessarily been the most well engineered of experiences. I've never, with these experiences where an experience feels particularly hollow or particularly unengaging, it really is difficult to say, hey, this is something that makes a life really worthwhile. And it's very difficult to make the argument that the present state of technology, where it's like, my grandmother used to always bake cookies, and she unfortunately passed away. So it's like that connection, all the technology in the world is never going to bring that back. It's never going to bring it back. It never will do that. So this, the most meaningful connections in my life, and, those experiences are not something I'm looking for technology to replace. And I do think that stands the test of time for most people. Now, with natural evolution, kind of the point I was going to go with is, it's better to evolve. We're not intelligently designed. And this idea of like the intelligent design school of like engineering, where if you just build a product, it's not really how development works. It's, it's one of those things, though, where a lot of these experiences, this weird technology view is really not what it means to be human. And, with these technologists, they are very dangerous because it's almost like you're getting into Marxism, where they don't really realize it, where it's this idea that somehow you're going to be able to engineer a society. And this societal engineering is really, societies are much more complex, and you can kind of feel the hollowness. But it's just like, the thing though is, it's we're not meant to live 1,000 years. From a science fantasy perspective, it's like, but we can't interact with that, and it's like it's like we're destined to die. If that means we go to some other place, are we going to burn in hellfire for all eternity? Who knows? But it is a very natural part of human experience, no matter what occurs. So that's just one of those things where I get, what he's talking about here is really a human experience that just somehow seems less than human.
Like all of us, creators, developers, companies of all sizes, together, we can finally put people at the center of our technology and deliver an experience where we are present with each other. Together, we can create a more open platform with more ways to discover experiences and more interoperability between them. And together, we can unlock a massively bigger creative economy. I know the internet story isn't straightforward.
So it's just like, but what about all the children who are bullied using social media? Do these technologies make them feel more together? What about people who are made to feel more marginalized, who are mocked, and who are hurt on social media? What about people who are scammed through social media and all these technologies? Do these technologies make them feel better, or do they in fact make them feel worse? Where now they're subject to 24/7 torment, and now you want to drag them into this, virtual world where it could be a virtual hell, and there is a serious moral implication to this activity. No, my children will not be allowed to have social media profiles. It's like, I've already decided that. It's terribly immoral. Just have this constant 24/7 on. And even my own social media presence is pretty scant. I never post on Facebook. I use YouTube because I like connecting with you guys and actually having some interesting conversations, but I'm not really I wouldn't say I'm really a big social media consumer, and I do like Reddit. Let's be honest there, because I like comparing coffee roasts with people. But these uses are very divergent, and this is the net outcome. So all this creative economy, this is the best foot forward for this. So this is what Mark thought would be the best light and the most charitable light to phrase this in, because this is what he's come forward with its marketing materials. So this is the best it's going to be. So if this is the best it's going to be, there's a lot of reasonable doubt to be skeptical here. Now let's continue, shall we?
Every chapter means new voices and new ideas, and yes, there will be challenges and risks and disruption of established interests. But there will also be opportunities and benefits that we can't even imagine yet. For connection, for creation, for learning, and joy. We'll all need to work together from the beginning.
And all of these words are read off of a teleprompter. Do I watch YouTube? Yes, I watch other creators to see what they're doing to be effective. And shockingly, pretty much everybody uses a teleprompter. Started using a teleprompter too, because you get the eye darting. I'm not on teleprompter right now. This is raw. This is raw mic. This is unfiltered. But you can even tell where it's like he has, as he's watching this is what, the teleprompter, you can see his eyes. He's so locked on. Mark Zuckerberg is really bad at reading from a teleprompter. He is really bad at this. The joy, that felt so hollow. The projection and the intonation. Come on, babe. Not at your mezzo forte. I will say, my favorite, though, are the green screen boys. Yeah. Because then I realized, oh, wait, they have teleprompters now. Hello, Mrs. Keycat. And it's once you realize that these guys have teleprompters, you're like, oh, hello, Mrs. Kitty Cat. How are you doing? How are you doing? You know, it's like, it's kind of like how I read books. Like, I don't really, you know, like, I don't really read books to, like, consume them. I read them to kind of engage with them critically. So, like, I mean, I definitely like seeing what comes up on YouTube, but it's kind of become, you know, as I make more and more videos and I kind of see what people are doing, because, hello, Mrs. Keycat. I'm kind of breaking the rules of YouTube right now because I've got, like, my little animal, I've got all my background noise, you know, but it's like, you know, like, their show concept was so friggin' cool. Like, this motorcycle show, you know, so, like, I really, you know, like, my thumbnails are terrible. You know, so there's a lot of, you know, things with my content where, you know, like, you know, I try to improve it or engage with it, but a lot of the media I consume is, like, it's marketing adjacent, stuff like that, where, hello, Mrs. Keycat. You know, because it's more of like, okay, so there's like 5 of us, so how do we go on nomadic insights from like 5 to 10? You know, these are the things I'm looking at. It's just like, I mean, it was a really, like, classic ADV China was, like, really good. And that's one of the reasons I started making content, was because, like, I really liked their stuff. But then it just became kind of like the green screen grifters, and it was really, yeah, it just wasn't really, you know, it just wasn't really good content anymore. But it's, yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, engaging with a lot of the content or looking for some of the content, you know, it's difficult, like, for me to create stuff right now, because, like, you know, like, the end goal is, like, my favorite portion of the content is definitely, like, the live streams and Skeptic Sunday. But, you know, we're kind of in, like, this weird pivot where, you know, I've started doing a lot more. You know, you are right about Substack. I should definitely, you know, have more of a lead magnet. Well, the whole funnel itself is, I'm working on the book called, it's, when I'm saying, like, the grift, it's kind of like, I think they over advertise the content, because, like, their most loyal subscribers are people who don't like China. Like, if I want to piss off a bunch of people, like, I would just go create, like, it's like, if I was gonna, like, annoy everybody, I would just go create, you know, I would go create a very exciting, you know, I just go create, like, the China videos. You know, again, because this is very interesting, because, like, once you start engaging critically about China, you know, I do still stand by, it's, like, virtually impossible to get, like, accurate information about China. I do like, Musecat, who, unfortunately, his kitty cat passed away in this video, so I felt really bad. You know, but yeah, I am trying to make my content more reflective. Like, I really like Cold Fusion stuff. I think he does a really good job on his 40-minute long form content, and it's really good. I think it's very interesting to engage with. Substack, I have, like, because I've tried Medium, but I'll be trying Substack, because, like, as I start writing these scripts, it gets easier to, like, blog it, because, like, my 2 videos I'm doing a week, there's the one credit card one, then there's the one actual, like, I have so much to unload with about this guy. But let's continue with Mark before we kind of go into that China GDP one.
Beginning to bring the best possible version of this future to life. A future where, with just a pair of glasses, you will be able to...
I just really feel like I can't. Hey, come here. Come here, you. And just in case, I know we had a fan favorite here. Leo's still here. He was just under there taking a nap. I just really need this.
Beyond the physical world and into the kinds of experiences that we have talked about today.
Dude, no matter what, your
I've been
stupid VR
thinking
thing
a
is
lot
not going to
about
get me a
our
fluffy dog.
identity as we begin this next chapter.
Fluffy dog.
Facebook is one of the most used products in the history of the world. It is an iconic social media brand. But
Fluffy
increasingly,
dog.
it just doesn't encompass everything that we do.
What's up, JD?
Instagram, WhatsApp,
No,
Messenger,
no, Mark. People
Quest,
want
now
silly
Horizon,
dog.
Nazare, and more. Building our social media apps will always be an
No.
important focus for us. But right now, our brand is so
Fuzzy
tightly
dog.
linked to one product that
Fuzzy
it can't
dog.
possibly represent everything that we're doing today, let alone in the future. Over time, I hope that we are seen as a metaverse company.
A metaverse
And I want to
company.
anchor our work and our identity on what we are building towards.
Oh, good lord. You were
We just announced that we are making a fundamental change to our company. We're now looking.
Oh, he is a very smelly Spanish water dog. So JD, how are you the most used? But just in terms of like our buddies, it's like, again, like with skepticism, I think that when you have a totalitarian dictatorship, the writing was on the wall with Xi years ago. Hello, Mr. Stinky. I don't think I've ever really expressed a, what I would say is a like pro-China position on this channel. I've pretty much always been very pro-USA. So it's but it's really difficult because I think a lot of the conversation has been, like with the metaverse, where we see this. They're basically going to crash and burn because there's a way to do like social media discovery where it's like TikTok has done a really good job with the algorithms here, where you I kind of feel like just creating a TikTok for Leo. I'm not anti-Taiwan. I take a challenge with that, JD. I challenge you there, sir. I challenge you there. My position is not anti-Taiwan. My position is pro-status quo. I challenge you, sir. My position is pro-status quo. With Taiwan, as an American, there's very little reason to favor a change in the position. Oh, we're not going down the conspiracy theory road. Oh, silly head. Oh, silly head. Oh, silly head. So he is getting his. I am just decide. You know what? Leo is going on TikTok. Leo, we're gonna make you TikTok famous, buddy. I've resisted downloading it, but I have like a whole herd of animals. I'm also willing to bet like Leo would just do better than me, where like Leo's gonna have more viewers and all that stuff. Thank you very much. I was just gonna stick it in a cup though. Thanks, on. I do like Chinese tea though. Now, the only anti-Taiwan position I do have, JD, is I'm not a huge fan of Taiwanese tea compared to I'm anti-war. I'm really truly anti-war to a certain extent. Now with like Russia, I think that Ukraine should be armed to the teeth moving forward, but I do think that the position is like, I just don't want to spark like a war between the US and China. I do think that we shouldn't let Taiwan be occupied. But Taiwan's best defense is to make is a mutually assured policy of destruction or mad. Like that's the best case for Taiwan. Like Taiwan probably should have nuclear weapons. Like probably.
Looking at and reporting on our business as two different segments. One for our family of apps, and one for our work on future platforms. And as part of this, it is time for us to adopt a new company brand to encompass everything that we do. To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. Our apps and their brand.
And everybody decided to rebrand in 2022, which I think, yeah, I mean, well, it's like the thing is, like, you can't appear weak, and you pretty much always need to be ready. You need to always be ready for some, for some conflict. But is it just me, or is like he can't even like I'm gonna try to be excited right now. And now we're Meta, guys. So fantastic. I can't even take Mark Zuckerberg seriously. He should definitely not be Facebook's spokesman. Like how Obama had like the anger translator. I feel like Mark Zuckerberg needs the Mark Zuckerberg translator. That would definitely be nice because it's very monotone. Brilliant guy. Just unfortunately, lovely gunpowder tea. That's my thing though, where I was thinking of starting like a tea business. Starting a tea business, I'd be in trouble with China, man. This is why I prefer coffee. Go Ethiopia! Real shame about what's happening in Yemen too. But I mean, my position in Taiwan is basically like, I just don't want to know. But I do think like, that video, Matt and Winston did on like the girl who was drowning, and there were people kind of like jumping in, to try and save her and stuff. Zuckerberg is good at marketing.
Brands, they're not changing either. And we are still the company that designs technology around people. But now we have a new North Star to help bring the metaverse to life. And we have a new name that reflects the full breadth of what we do and the future that we want to help build. From now on, we're going to be Metaverse.
I do just love how there are people still talking in the background of this video where it's basically like kind of expressing like, we're not at all interested in this, and they're just like chit-chatting as like the CEO just walking around with the camera. Poor editing, guys. Poor editing. You needed some noise suppression, but they're not even engaged. It's just like a guy in a turtleneck. So it's his core business, Zuckerberg is, it's my coffee my coffee business. Well, you see, I have a whole backlog of like technology purchases. And I'm very pro Taiwan, JD. My coffee maker I'm ordering is actually from Taiwan. They have the best prosumer. Yeah. See, now I'm going to show JD that I'm very pro Taiwan. I'm just going to show him where it's like this baby. We're accepting donations on Kickstarter if anybody yeah, so I mean, see, I'm very pro Taiwan. It's just like well, like with war and marketing, like you need to really market your war where you need some really good propaganda. And that's definitely one of the issues we're seeing with, let's just say Russia right now. It's that a lot of a lot of stuff that is currently going on is basically like people are, like, like there's a certain controversy where it's like, like if you look at somebody like, if you look at Benito Mussolini, if you look at, the rise of National Socialism, these were movements that took advantage of marketing. No, you don't need to market to your there's a lot of risk with war, so you need to do a very good job marketing or selling your population on the position that somehow a conflict is going on, or you need to have some sort of like deity, or to me it's absolutely mind-boggling why like an atheist state would wage war. So that's just one of those things where, or in a civil war, which is in the case of mainland China, where that really begins to matter. But just with old Marky here, let's let him finish. I'll let him finish. Oh. But family of apps, how magical, family of apps. And then Skeptic Sunday, as we my big thing with Taiwan is I think that like the chip manufacturing, the US is gonna like move that back over. I gotta totally refresh this.
To find their voice, to start businesses and communities and movements that have changed the world. I'm proud of what we've built so far and excited about what comes next as we move beyond what's possible today, beyond the constraints of screens, beyond the...
This is just from a year ago. Dude, I've been gone for a long time, man. I got a whole year, I got a whole backlog of stuff I gotta get caught up on. There's a lot of BS to debunk, man. I'm still just reacting from the earnings last week of how terrible an idea was. This was a terrible idea 2 years ago, and it's a terrible idea now. I got the whole video script coming out on Meta. Because like I'm trying to build the cohesive channel identity where I could just go double down on being the grumpy philosopher, but the problem is with being a grumpy philosopher, you don't get any ad revenue. So we got to get our metrics up, guys. Got to get some more people in the live chat here. It's good for us as we rebuild Skeptic Sunday on I think what is this, like week number 6 for us. As there's more segments on Skeptic Sunday, it's going to be a little bit more, I think it's a stupid name. It's a stupid name. I think that is my big thing with it, where I just feel like it's a really stupid name. I don't think that they did a very good job marketing it. One of the points I'm going to be harping on in my longer form content, where I'm doing kind of the deep dive on this, is, I think since Sheryl Sandberg is, Instagram has been successful through like Instagram stories, which they kind of stole from Snapchat. Facebook is not really like an innovative company. It's kind of like Microsoft is not like an innovative company, and neither is Apple. They're kind of like really big copycat companies. So, a lot of this stuff to go into kind of the ideas comes from like Clayton Christensen's The Innovator's Dilemma, where, it's better to just buy the innovation, which a lot of these larger tech companies have been successful at, where they've really captured the next generation of disruptors. Because social media companies like Facebook, I mean, there's really not that big an economic moat for Facebook. We could claim there's a network effect, but, just booting up a social media profile, to another website, there's not really a lot of like switch danger. I mean, from a platform perspective, even if you look at TikTok, the kind of stuff we're doing where it's like long form content. I see we have one high lonely Twitch viewer who is out there versus my my YouTube crew. I'm streaming to Facebook as well. Nobody's on the Facebook stream, so no hi for Facebook there. But a lot of that is really being driven by, what is each platform for? Like Twitch as like a philosophical conversation or like philosophical live stream. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. Oh. Hello, Mrs. Keycat. Mrs. Keycat's back, guys. But, I do just want to go into this one segment, so... We thank you for your like. I cannot find this. Nope. Here we go. 60%.
China's economy is 60% smaller than we thought.
So this guy, Money and Macro, does like a really solid job with his content. He is an economics PhD.
China's economy is 60% smaller than we thought.
So, this study, this was like why I'm a China skeptic, because like all these people who are rushing to invest in China, hey, I'm saying you'll like this. This means that India's economy may actually be larger than China. So India could be #winning against China right now. And this is one of those really interesting, this is one of those really interesting segments for me, because, again, with like the channel, I'm kind of, I'm concerned with how do you make money and how do you, it is Money in Macro. So he looks at macroeconomic trends. He does a lot of video essay stuff. He's got really, he's actually qualified. He knows what the hell he's talking about. This is what I mean by like, what is a China expert, or like, what is a China skeptic? Like he does a really, he does a really good job. Money in Macro. I think that his stuff is, really, I just think it's really excellent. And, one of the big things with China is when you're looking at the economy, it's just like, like, why would you invest your money here? Like, why would you do this? So this might be like a longer term video, but we gotta give the old China. I still don't know why I started doing China YouTube, but it was always such a comical land. But I'm just staying away from like individual YouTuber commentary, my long form videos, because it doesn't really add to a lot of the content. But this is pretty, I kind of feel like I have deja vu, because I feel like this video came out a lot longer ago. So the two big global, oh my gosh, we're screwed macro trends right now are Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, the UK, oh, the English. I mean, I think the channel mission of just like, hello, Mrs. Geekat. This was pre Mrs. Geekat. It's also very difficult to do a live. I know they really were. They're getting in the way of the gaming, man. Hello, Mrs. Geekat. Yeah, what's going on? Oh, I got Geekat mustache. Oh, hello, Mrs. Geekat. I still do think that the big giant, big fat panda is pretty hilarious. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing, Mrs. Geekat? What are you doing? But I mean, I still enjoy the video stuff. It's just like I'm still in that definitely like intermediate content creation stage. So I definitely thank you guys for returning after my year-long hiatus. I appreciate the Nomadic Insights crew as we got. Dude, they're so screwed. Like, they're so screwed, man. They're so screwed. I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Hello, Mrs. Keycat. Yeah, they screwed. Yeah, unfortunately, this guy's Keycat passed away, and I felt bad for him. Because we got a Mrs. Keycat here. Yes, we do. Hello, Mrs. Keycat. Oh, Mrs. Keycat. Good girl. This is Bella. She's a new addition to the band of fluff balls that I have. We also have a third cat named Speedy. He doesn't like to come down here, though. So it's just Bella, Leo. Okay.
At least that is the implication if we are to believe the research presented in this research paper by Professor Luis Martinez from the University of Chicago. This would mean that instead of soon becoming the second largest economy in the world, China's economy is only about a third of the size of the mighty US economy.
What? China's been lying about the size of its economy? I would have never guessed, right, guys? Now, he is a, it's Luis Martinez. I do kind of want to look at his credentials a little bit. Yep, we got the animal. Hello, Mr. Keycat. Yes, hello. Hi. Yeah. Good girl. Yeah, you don't want to go to China because apparently they eat cats there. U Chicago. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of issues coming out of the U Chicago. I mean, I'm a little biased because like my dad loves the economics school. We like Chicago School of Economics, but with his stuff, I mean, like the idea that somehow like China has inflated its economy, like China is basically the modern day Enron, and I don't really think you want to tie up your supply line in China if you can avoid it. But the idea that somehow the economy is a lot smaller than it actually is, because like the manufacturing is just it's really just not that profitable. I mean, there's a reason why we've outsourced it but kept all the high value activities, but like, to Winston's point, which I haven't actually verified yet, do we know if that's true, where the ballpoint pen was too hard for China to precision engineer? Like, was that actually true? I don't really know. I haven't had time to fact check that. Just one of those things I was like, wait, what?
And it also means that predictions such as those made by billionaire investor Ray Dalio that China is soon to overtake the US as the world's next superpower are way overblown. Finally, having much lower GDP also means that China's debt levels are actually much higher relative to the size of its economy, meaning that its debt-fueled property bubble is much more dangerous.
I'm having lag issues out the wazoo today. It's the problem with China is like, there is a truly massive Goodbye, Mrs. Keycat. Oh, I'm coming back, Mrs. Keycat. Where you going? Yeah, the problem with the Chinese assets is there is a massive speculative bubble within Chinese assets. And, we haven't really had an effective, the term I want to use here is we really haven't had a coming, there hasn't been a market reckoning in China. And a lot of that seems to be sustained by the macroeconomic borrowing costs, where, China has really, not suffered from an economic contraction, and Chinese growth has been very debt heavy, and it's been reliant on credit. So as rates go up and as the age of how shall we say, as this credit reckoning really starts to hit, the larger scale macroeconomic implications for China are relatively alarming as the US starts to suck up more money. So we'll see how that starts to work over the longer term. But I do think it's one of those things to consider is what's going to actually happen here when, we see things starting to deflate here. But I mean, you had another 212 million people in lockdown. Why China continues to do that, I don't get it personally. It's kind of time to get over it, but it's definitely a command and control thing with the government at this point. So, we're kind of living in some, we've been heading towards, the rocks for a while now. And I've been relatively hesitant to use terms like depression, but I think we're heading for a very severe economic contraction. And I think the geopolitical environment, or the kind of the policy of benign neglect that has allowed for lack of a better term, the capitalist West to work with China, that's over. That is over. If you look at what we have done with chips recently, if you look at, the Hong Kong and Macau crackdowns that continue, we are no longer in politically neutral where we have an ambivalent relationship with China. Our geopolitical interests in the United States directly conflict with those of China, and both the Republican administration as well as the Biden administration have really made that clear. So this that was what makes this money and macro video a bit scary. Yeah, I mean, it's I think though with what Soros brought up, there's Cold Fusion's video is really good on this, where he looks at the death of the real economy. With the basic economy or the productive economy really hasn't grown in the last 12 years, really 14 years since the 2008 financial crisis. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. That sets up a perfect storm. I would argue, because if you talk to most normal consumers, consumer sentiment since about 2019, it really feels like we're living in a recession. That recession is just starting to catch up to, the United States and Western Europe right now are really developed markets. Because if you look at Sri Lanka, look at Sri Lanka, Argentina, if you look at some of these big developed markets, it's really, really difficult to argue that these economies are really not in a full-on global recession, at least based on what I've seen so far.
Dangerous than we thought. But this all depends on the answer to one question. Can you trust this research paper more than China's official GDP figures? Well, for you to make up your mind about that, I'll first tell you why China's official figures are so.
So for this one, for the video, the PRC's economy numbers are bad. Oh, I think everyone's screwed. I think everyone's screwed. I think we're looking at potentially like 70% off the S&P 500. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. So we're looking at a very severe contraction. If I'm being pessimistic, a la Great Depression level, well, let's certainly hope not. Let's definitely hope that that's not the case, but we're definitely looking at a very, very severe economic contraction within the next few years. Just based on the pain that the whole world is feeling. The inflation, there's a lot of questions here, but it's just like, we're heading into this, like, China doesn't really impact us right now because, like, if you're not starting to prep for recession, it doesn't real. This is not the Optimist channel. This is Skeptic Sunday with the Skepticism channel. So, I mean, it's like, we're kind of like, here's the thing. It's like, I'm kind of getting ready for a, it's like I'm kind of battening down the hatches and like we're getting ready for it where, we're kind of ready to roll, with the worst of things here. But, I got, we are in, we're already having the conversations of like, I've cut, I was planning a trip to Japan, cut that real good. I'm back with you guys on YouTube because this is my most budget friendly hobby. Even as I buy, it's actually beautiful outside today. It's actually beautiful. I got my nice windows here. Yeah, I mean, everything I have is fixed too, so it's not really gonna be, it's not really that bad. I mean, I'm also in sales, so I kind of know when the pipe's gonna hit the piper, but, like, I work with very large companies and, globally, if you do global work, the U.S. economy is definitely doing a lot better. The weakening of the euro has definitely hurt U.S. companies' fiscal performance. And that's across the board with even most of my clients. And, my expertise is in healthcare marketing. So it is a nice fall. It is a beautiful fall day, except for I have allergies, so it's not very exciting for me. Leo certainly loves it though. But if you're looking at those macroeconomic trends, we're looking at a really bad tightening coming up. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But, we're basically in kind of like, okay, let's get ready for recession mode, where I would say, our spending is down. It's down like 80%. We got some projects like I'm working on at the house, but besides that, I mean, it's like it's business expenses, and that kind of stuff, but nothing really crazy fancy. I mean, everything that is kind of like, typical end of year tax deductions, that's really what we're working on here. I mean, have you guys started cutting spending yet? Or, what's been going on there? No spending cutters, no nothing? Or, what's been happening kind of for y'all? No responses from the comments, guys, on the budget cuts? No response on budget cuts? Okay, I guess I am alone in this draconian budget cut. I kind of put my girlfriend in charge of all spending because we all know who the spender is. Me and my fancy coffee machine, apparently. The finance committee has not approved it. So I gotta ask everybody for 50-cent donations, guys. Help a guy out. Help me get my coffee roaster, guys. Help me. I need your help. So now let's...
Problematic. Then I'll show you the evidence that this paper presents and how I used it to calculate China's real GDP number. After that, I'll discuss both the strengths and weaknesses of the evidence against China's official statistics, plus what this greatly reduced GDP figure would mean for the global economy. Okay, so China's official GDP figures measuring the total spending in the economy have actually been very controversial for a long time. I mean, according to leaked documents, even China's vice president admitted that China's GDP figures are man-made and
It's okay, well I mean obviously you're getting ready there to you're just getting ready to dig your bunker, man. I mean, I feel like the bunker business is going to start doing really well again if like Donald Trump gets back on Twitter. I was like talking to, I'm thinking about like digging out my basement. I'm like, should I be adding like a bunker in my backyard? We're gonna have to see about that. That's just kind of my, current joke to myself of like, what do I start actually doing here? So I do think, though, you run into a very large problem where, it's, if Hemsig's still there, I'm gonna be saying something fabulous about India. That tends to play well with the audience too sometimes. I've been really impressed by the customer service of an Indian company we've been working with at my day job versus a Chinese supplier. The experience has really been fantastic from, Freshworks. And I really think, it is, my new plan here is, because like, I'm working on this whole like YouTube content creation thing. I mean, this is definitely, I think I'm going to do one of my like, oh my God. Yeah. It's like, well, I have my own basement now. I have my own basement. So I live in my basement, I guess. With my dog. Not really, but I had to move down here because I was like, I think you guys, is the echo any better today? Hey, trusty assistant, is the echo better? I'm not getting any word for from the trusty assistant, but I mean these guys, just like customer service and politeness from India versus China can really be like night and day. I mean, it is. I love talking to guys from India. It's so great. It's so great because they're like, Mr. Michael, sir. I'm like, I like being called Mr. Michael. I appreciate this. And I'm Irish, so we can both agree that England sucks. Yep. It's good times. It's good times. Irishmen in India, we got a lot in common, guys. So, that is, the trusty assistant has responded. Yes, the audio is better, according to the trusty assistant. So, it's definitely... I would say with like China, being a focus area, I'm concerned about China, but I don't know, like, I'm just kind of like, okay, I just need to chill, not really looking to aggressively change life. Hopefully we help people transform their lives through the power of skepticism. I'm really not a fan of fundamentalism, so the channel has kind of gone to that. But I do think, from a realistic, from like a budgeting perspective, we've gotten really, really cheap. I mean, most expenditures are under the microscope, and I would say the big difference between me and my counterpart is like for this stream, I I really wanted a new light. So I've gotten this thing that lets me do this, where I could just press this button and it lets me change things. Or I can like mute the audio. So I have a Stream Deck now. It's really quite fancy. See, I could press the button, it lets me do that. Fantastic, right? So it's things like that that have just kind of made my life a little bit easier as we work on improving the, content quality. Like, again, I'm working on scripting the videos more. That way it's less of, hey, Mike rambles with the audio editing. But it's really hard to get good videos because of someone chewing their toes. I wonder who I'm talking about, Mr. Toe Chewer Dog. If you hear the, God bless his little soul, but he makes life so difficult.
And therefore unreliable. You see, to calculate GDP, governments all around the world typically collect data on transactions in all sectors of the economy. But the problem is that GDP growth is often seen as a measurement of success.
That's the other thing where like politicians will literally brag about everything. Where like GDP is really not a great growth measure. You're better off looking at like the actual like the CPI, because I mean, even if we did an adjustment, so like, okay, so if we're looking at inflation versus US growth, if the economy is not growing in real terms, so like let's run that. I'm so curious right now. So if I do this, so the US gross domestic product grew at 2.6%, but inflation was like 9%. So that means like the real economy shrunk probably in like by 6%. If you just like assume that people's incomes have only expanded by 2.6%. So the economy itself is not absorbed through any meaningful production that, actual economic output. So it's just kind of interesting here. But, all these economic numbers are just made up.
Numbers for America's economic growth, or GDP, were just...
This guy's going to end up back on Twitter. I'm calling that now. It's going to be hilarious. Okay, that is going to be funny. Orange man on Twitter. Oh, man.
Just released, and I am thrilled to announce that the United States economy grew at the amazing rate of 4.1%.
So to stay in power, politicians need higher GDP numbers, and sure, they could get them by governing well, allowing the economy to grow, but that is really hard work.
Who wants to do really hard work? Let's just make it up, guys. In Soviet Russia, we have solution. In Soviet Russia, you tell number what to do. Oh, yeah. So this idea that somehow, and watching communists try to jump through the intellectual hoops of how do you actually maintain like good governance and avoid Bonapartism, which, by the way, look who's turned themselves into the new Napoleon Bonaparte. Xi Jinping. See, yet another communist revolution, yet another revolutionary movement fell to Bonapartism. Who saw that coming? But did the Skeptic see that coming? Why, yes, we did. Shocking, isn't it? Let's talk evidence.
Means for China's GDP today. So we decided to do that ourselves. But we will discuss how we did that after a word from our sponsor, Incogni. You see, while dictators manipulate their own data, in the West, your personal information is traded by hundreds of data brokers without you even knowing about it. These brokers aggregate personal data, including...
So I work in the market research industry. This data is not very good. It is not very good data. Like, you'd be surprised, like, just how inaccurate the data I could buy on you is. I'm actually kind of just tempted to just, like, buy the data on myself, but it's always pretty accurate. And it's like, that's just me though. So let us see here.
Your employment history, home address, or SSN, and sell it to all kinds of businesses. For example, health insurance companies purchase health-related online search data to assess your level of risk and can raise rates based on your online activities. Even worse, some data brokers have been caught selling data to scammers. Ever wondered why you get thousands of spam mails that you never sign up for? Well, now you know. And while you have the right to request data brokers to delete your data, it's so complicated that it would take years to do it manually. Luckily, there's a solution.
I know, it's great we have this solution.
It helps you to take your personal information off the market by reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, requesting your personal data removal, and even dealing with any objections from their side. All fully automated. Now, if you want to try it, the first 100 people can use my personal discount code MONEYMACRO to get 20% off of Incogni. Just check out incogni.com/MoneyMacro and take your private data off the market. Alright, back to how we calculate the true size of China's economy.
So this is definitely one of those things where the actual true size of the economy is highly distorted. Even with market estimates and market I know, that's good. That's good. Well, apparently we can't even find, like, you don't even count as a viewer. Like, I'm like, wait, I know he watched my video because he left a comment. I'll watch it for 30 seconds or otherwise we don't get a view. And I'm like, wait, I see his comment, but I don't see his view. I'm like, what's going on here? That's the other thing about skeptics where you're like, because like, all this like privacy shield stuff, like I'm pretty sure all you guys use ad blockers. I use ad blockers too, so I'm probably not a very good target audience for most YouTubers. That's the other thing I feel bad about sometimes. It's like, I'm like, how do these guys get paid for this?
Based on how much authoritarian countries overstate GDP growth compared to nightlight growth, Martinez produced what he calls a GDP deflator. This GDP deflator is basically a number by which to reduce official GDP numbers each year based on how authoritarian a country is. Using his deflator, we extend Martinez's analysis to the year 2021. And while between 1992 and 2021, China reported a sky-high GDP growth between 14 and 8%, Martinez's analysis suggests that China actually only grew between 6 and 2%. Importantly, this means that instead of surpassing the USA as the largest economy in the world, China is still quite far from it. Now, don't get me wrong, these are still really impressive.
Well, the way that all the data gets tied together is, if you really want to protect your online privacy, the service that I would recommend kind of as a market research professional is kind of like a spoofing email address where, it's, basically like it just creates like a dummy email and you just use that to sign up for everything. That's a bit better because then they can't tie your stuff together with like personal email. It's like all that kind of stuff is good. We're like, since I work at a market research company, like a lot of my stuff is like we deal with so much online fraud, unfortunately. So like we do a lot of research with healthcare professionals and we pay a lot. So there's a lot of online fraud that we need to constantly fight. So it's one of those things where, we have a strict real ID policy where if like you want to become a member in our community, like you've got to send us a like photo ID, like even if you're a patient taking a survey, because how do we verify that? And a lot of my work goes into like FDA submissions and things like that. So I'm a little bit more skeptical there of things that are going on there. So so instead of making fun of China YouTubers, that's what I do at my day job is I deal with regulatory submissions. Very fun stuff, right?
Growth numbers. On average, it was still quite a bit higher than the 4.1% that Trump was so proud of. And this growth was
I know.
still enough for China's economy to surpass that of Japan and become the second biggest economy in the world. But at this point you might say, Yuri, this paper and
poor
your
Mr. Kike.
calculations, they look a bit rough around the edges.
love
Why
that
should I
guy.
trust them over the official statistics provided by the Chinese government? And
Gee, let me guess. Because we really want to trust the Communist Party of China. Bad idea. It hit my microphone. There we go. Bad idea. It's just a terrible idea to trust the Communist Party of China.
yeah, there is some truth to that in the sense that this is a very rough calculation. Martinez himself even calls it a back-of-the-envelope calculation. And so, yeah, you should take these adjusted numbers with a big grain of salt. But that being said, I do actually think that the adjusted numbers are closer to the truth than the official numbers for 3 reasons.
Okay.
First, it's important to mention that this paper has been critically assessed by dozens of economists. It has been presented at seminars at the University of Chicago and Illinois, as well as at policy institutions such.
So I do need to caveat this, that both the University of Chicago as well as, U.S. universities. So there is the geopolitics angle, there is the political slant, where maybe someone like Peter Wolf, who is a socialist economist, may disagree with these numbers or even the notion of GDP calculation to begin with. So I do think that is just one thing I want to just slightly, bear out there, and I will just kind of offer kind of as my grain of consideration where, hey, it might just end up being that you think that, you think what you think. And it does not shock me that your name is not Quizmaster. I thought your name was Aloysius P. Mahoney Jones, personally. That's what I went with. It's like the other thing I find so curious is I was talking to somebody who I work with who's from India, and was like, did you guys ever pick an English name in English class? Because we did that in I remember being 6 when I first started, when I took a Spanish class, and it was Miguel. It's I'm Miguel. Richard Wolff. Yep. The grumpy little guy who's everywhere. He's the grumpy goblin of socialism. Yeah. Let's continue.
Such as the Central Bank of Chile and the World Bank. What's more, it has been peer-reviewed and published in the prestigious Journal of Political Economy. Second, Martinez has done a lot of checks to make sure that the findings that authoritarians consistently have higher GDP growth than nightlight growth cannot be explained by some other factor. For example, you could imagine that geography has something to do with this relationship. Or perhaps most authoritarian countries were just less developed economies in 1992, which changed their relationship with nightlights. Or perhaps the structure of authoritarian economies is just different because their people move to cities less. Or it could also be that they just rely on industries that produce fewer lights. Well, Martinez checked for all of this and more, and it didn't affect his main results. So his analysis that authoritarian...
So that's one of the things with this data weighting. There is, legitimate economic criticism of China that goes on. A lot of that criticism that has increased. It's a little difficult to avoid our buddies, the green screen grifters, just because I just found this to be a really interesting piece this week. We're actually looking at the size of the Chinese economy. I mean, if you take effectively, let me just pull this up, G20 economy sizes. If you take it by, 0.4 times 17, still China has the world's second largest economy, but it's only about twice the size of India. And that's a little concerning, but the actual reality is like China, by purchasing power parity or whatever you want to have it, probably isn't a $17 trillion economy. So a lot of that growth is, looking at actual cash in the economy. There do become to be a lot of issues there. And let's just continue.
Koreans overstate GDP holds. Now, at this point, you might say, Yuri, okay, but Martinez's calculations of GDP was about the average manipulation of authoritarian regimes. It is not applicable to China. And yeah, that could be true. So I looked into it. I started by examining why China's own vice president would ever admit that he didn't trust his own GDP numbers. And there it turns out that China is quite unique in that the central government used to set GDP growth targets for provincial governors. And if any of you ever worked in a company with a growth target, you probably know that while they can be effective, they typically also produce a lot of unwanted side effects. For example, economic research shows that sales targets in companies lead to bad sales, such as those sold at unsustainable discounts, as well as manipulated sales numbers.
If you give people a target, they will magically manipulate it. I am very surprised, especially people who want to look good and get promoted in the party hierarchy and need to either grow or die, because lordy forbid those numbers actually be lower, right guys? Lord forbid. So I just kind of find that, a little ironic there. But guys, thanks so much for joining this edition of Skeptic Sunday. I see we're a little bit over time. Do try to keep everything here to 2 hours with the segment. Really appreciate that we were able to get a bit of a full house. JD, welcome back to the stream as always. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this Sunday's edition. Terms videos coming out this week. Got something planned to continue my Amex Platinum review. Gonna kind of be rehashing this afternoon my thoughts on Meta platforms and their Q3 debacle. Still trying to weave in some of the geopolitical content with shorts. It's just hard to get everything in to a weekly video cadence, but hey, we're working on it. We're trying to do good here. Hopefully y'all like it, and we'll continue from there. But please let me know if there's any content you want to see in the comments, any topics you think would be good, and then we'll go from there. And I am not anti-Taiwan. I am anti-war. I just think war bad, status quo good. So, oh dude, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be pretty bad. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if it's gonna be the British that start the crud show or the Chinese. I think Evergrande, because I think as borrowing costs spiral, it's really going to hit China pretty hard, because the economy is so debt financed. So it's basically, it's going to decrease net investment in China. So this will be interesting. As we start focusing on macro topics. So thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great one. Okay.